Okay, great. So Sai Ram,
Hello.
and so good to have you part of the podcast, and I'm super thrilled. Um, a couple of engineers have spoken about you, so hence why I've been extremely keen to have you part of this journey, and
Okay.
I'm so glad that I'm part of this journey because of the fact that I've actually come across a number of Sai devotees as part of this journey, like Shivamani sir and Hariharan sir
Okay.
and Shashwat Singh and a number of others.
Okay.
So good to have you as well. And I feel that in a way it is Swami's blessing that it was meant to be like this.
Absolutely. Because first of all, I would like to thank you for thinking of me and bringing me into this project. All these are legends to whom you're speaking and interacting. And more than anything else, see, for me, it's always divinity that comes in front of music. And music is so divine that we are all so lucky to be engulfed in music. And in my life, my inspiration is Rahman sir. And every time I quote him, you can see how my face beams with joy. But for him, I don't think I would have taken up a career in sound and be so involved with sound. And
Right.
two things is, one is Baba's blessing. He named me Shravanam, and Shravanam means to hear, to listen. And he named me when I was 4.5 years old. Until then, my mother never gave me a name. I was called Pintu fondly.
Oh,
So my mother was very particular that only Sai Baba must name me, because both my sisters were named by Baba. So until about 4.5, I never carried a name. I was only fondly called Pintu. So when I was 4.5, Baba named me Shravanam. Shravanam means to listen, to hear. So today my life is all about music. My life is all about sound. And that's when you realize that we are so small in front of divinity. And Rahman sir has been like my, it's like he's a guru. I worship him.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to express my feelings. It's not because I'm on this podcast or I'm supposed to be speaking about him, but I know that my life has subconsciously revolved around him being my inspiration. There are two people who have really inspired me, and every breath of mine has them. I would call it Ustad Zakir Hussain and Rahman sir. So both of this have really, I'm sunk and dwelled in both of them. And when you said you're going to do an interview of mine, I was so excited because the topic is ARR, sir.
Thank you so much. I have been very excited too for a number of reasons, which I'll talk through it as we go through this podcast. But first things first, I want to talk about Swami. Right? And for me, I know this is an ARR podcast, but I feel that if it wasn't for Swami's blessings, this probably wouldn't have happened. And there are so many instances I've seen clearly that it was Swami's presence, and it was. I don't want to call it miracle, but I could clearly see that everything was just ease because of him. Now, with that said, I would love to know the journey. Even from the point where I think your studio was also named after. Did he name the studio, or he suggested a name?
Okay, I can tell you this. Can I tell you the story in brief?
Yeah.
So, see, basically, I'm a computer science engineer, and I've never learned music or sound. I've never had a guru. I've never been taught in tabla. I've never had a teacher for sound. I've never gone to a college that taught music or sound.
Yeah.
Right from my younger days, it's only been my passion. I've been very deeply into music, and I always wished to be in music. In the year 2003 in Whitefield, I told Baba when I had an opportunity to play tabla, I asked him, Swami, I want to be in music all the time. He said, no, I will tell you what to do. Just wait. So when he told me, just wait, I kept waiting, and years rolled by, And then after that, I was with IIT Madras, and I was a project associate there in the computer science department. that was the most restless period of mine, because I wanted to be in music all my life, and then all of you're fully engulfed in academics, and you're in an environment of IIT Madras, and you know how it is. It was in 2006, in a very, very unexpected conversation with Baba. He was asking me about, he picked me up from a group of devotees, and then he was speaking to me about the importance of mother. He was saying mother is everything, and you have to respect your parents, and when you take care of your parents and when you take care of your mother, God will come in search of you. You don't need to go in search of God. That was the exact word he told me. He said, when you take care of your parents, God will come in search of you, and you don't need to go in search of God. So he kept talking about the importance of mother and parents. And he told me, Ella velayum uttutu, just go and start your veetu maadila above your house, start your studio. So at that time, we'd never had a studio, or it was a very small 650 square feet house. So we just had a terrace. So how about building and getting a studio done, and where would I go for clients? How would I start my career was a very big thing. But by then I was already a tabla player, playing for a lot of these artists in South India, like Bombay Jayashri, Sudha Raghunathan, Aruna Sairamji, Ranjini Gayatri, O.S. Arun, all of these people. At that time, there were not many North Indian tabla players in Chennai. So I used to be there all around the studios playing tabla, and always wanting to be a tabla player. Suddenly, when studio and all these things came up, somehow I got the studio done with whatever resources I had, and with the blessings of my parents, got the studio done. Baba had come in 2007 to Chennai. And at that time, he picked me up from the crowd, and then he said, Veedenge, where is your house? I said, Swami, it's in Adyar. He said, Na vare amma ta sollu. So he said, I'm coming, tell your mother. So I thought I didn't know if this was going to be real and if this was going to happen. And I kept doing my service there in Sundaram, in the local temple in Chennai.
Yeah.
And then within about a few hours, I was told that, my mother said, everybody has come around her house. They are saying Baba is coming. I rushed from Sundaram, came here. It was a matter of few hours, and Baba was already here. And he came up the ramp. There is a ramp up to my studio. Appadan, the studio was just over at that point in time. As he came up the ramp, he asked me, Edik ramp, why do you have a ramp? I said, it is for musicians. A lot of instruments are there. It's very heavy. Older people come, and I could not put a lift, and, I had a ramp. And Baba very lovingly said, no, I can't walk. I'm on a wheelchair. I decided to come here and inaugurate your studio, and the ramp is for me. That's what he told me. So even now when I say I have goosebumps, So he came and very lovingly lit a lamp here. So he told me sound and music is something that is I said, Swami, talent is, Swami was mentioning about talent. And I said, how talent can serve the world. And so there was a mention that talent is a gift of God. And then Swami corrected it, saying talent is God. He didn't say talent is a gift of God. He said talent is God. So he said, keep serving. And I'm with you all the time. Take care of your mother. Long and short is, my mother was diagnosed brain cancer very soon after the studio was inaugurated. That's when I realized that why for 1.5 years he was talking to me about my mother and how much I should take care of her. And at that time, we thought we are going to be in music, we are going to be in sound, and, your life is like this. As a youngster, you have a lot of dreams, and you're so excited having new studios and wanting to be starting a career in music and sound. But that's when you realize divinity comes into play. It was simply because I had to take care of my mother. Swami made my office this place just above the house. In 1.5 years, I had to take care of her. She was very critical and she needed care every minute. So not going much into the details, it was a very tough journey to take care of her until she left her physical body and, reached Baba. So that's when you realized how the studio comes up and how divinity plays in. I dreamt of being a tabla player. I always wanted to be a music director, composer. And then today I'm sitting with, equipments, handling sound. So I was like a boat drifting in water, wherever the water took me, I kept going without giving resistance. I just accepted my life as is. And I had complete trust and faith in Baba that, whatever happens for the best. And that kind of a faith was instilled because of his conversations with me and my parents, who kept um, telling me about how important it is to have faith in any form. So when Baba was here, he was telling me that you don't need to even call the name Baba. He said, why do you have to say Sai Ram or come to me or pray? He said, just do your duty, be very, very sincere in your studio, work very hard. He said, I will come in search of you. You don't need to come in search of me. That was exactly told in this very room.
Wow.
That, and I have a picture of when Baba was saying that to me right here.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't expect this conversation would actually be about Baba when it starts, but this was the picture that he was talking to me.
Oh my God.
So this was right here in this room. So because he had come here, I made this my studio.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. So, and I have told Baba so many times about Rahman sir.
I was actually going to ask you. Yes.
But I have not told Rahman sir about that. But every time I met Baba, I've always said, Swami, I listen to his music. Swami always, and once Baba made a comment about Rahman sir. It was in the Yajur Mandir. I was talking about music and how my studio was coming. I said, Swami, I had a chance to perform with ARR Rahman. Swami, it was my dream. I know it's your blessing. You know what Swami said? He loves his mother and he takes care of his mother so well. Because of his mother's blessing, he is who he is. Wow. That is what I've never told this publicly, but I didn't expect this interview to turn out. I don't know, as I say, it's a bit emotional, but I've never spoken this. I've never had a chance to, we don't know how everyone might take personal conversations. So I've always had it within myself. I didn't know it would come out of my mouth today. But Swami told me, and then Swami also told me about my mother. That's how Swami picked it up. And he said, he's who he is. And I told Swami, he should come one day here. And that's my prayer. Swami said, I'm with him always. That's all he said. So my family knows about it. A couple of my very close friends know about this. I don't know if ARR Rahman sir will be listening to this, but I will
share this clip to him.
But Baba told that to me. This was in the year 2007 on the 12th of January at about 10 a.m. inside Yajur Mandir. Yes.
I can't believe
the moment. Yeah, I still remember. He was he was sitting, and it was just me and Baba.
Yeah.
So I said, Swami, I had the biggest blessing of, Swami, I was yearning to meet Rahman sir and be a part of him. And then when I expressed that, Baba told that to me very clearly. Swami said, he is who he is because of his mother. It's his mother's blessing, and he loves his mother. That was the word he told me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
And it was at that time that I had lost my mother in the year next to that. So Swami was trying to push the fact of mother and the blessing of mother, and how important it is, how respecting your parents and doing your duty is God, where duty is God, and name, fame, and all these things, studio, and all of this is just a byproduct of everything else. It's a very worldly thing, but deep inside, it's a much bigger service.
Indeed. I can totally relate to this too, because I lost my mom recently, and then Sir has been extremely supportive in my personal front. And just Swami's blessings. That's all I can say. And then I was finding it very, very hard to deal with the loss. And Sir has been extremely supportive. Yes. That's all I can say.
Yeah. God comes in human form and supports you. For me, when my mother was sick, it was Baba who used to take such loving care. I can narrate you one incident which I feel is very, very beautiful, important, and is something where you realize that divinity can always keeps looking at you. Divinity always looks upon you, but we forget to realize that the divinity is looking upon you. Many a times we think we are doing, but even this conversation is looked upon by the divinity. It can be Allah, it can be Yesu, it can be Mahavir, it can be Rama, Krishna, Swami, anything, in whatever name or form you may call him. So it was, my mother was very, very down with very severe bout of seizures. It was not stopping for almost 24 hours, fits, it was brain
Wow.
cancer. So I was always besides her. So it was from the previous day I did not have food. I did not leave my mother and go. I was in the bed with her.
Mm.
And I still remember the next day morning had passed, and my father was out of Chennai. He was in Erode
Mm.
doing some service. So it was about 11 o'clock. There was a devotee from Puttaparthi who called me and they said, Baba just now mentioned that you have not had your food till now. You have not had food till now. Please go and have your food. Swami wants you to have your food and eat on time. I was taken aback. I didn't realize that such a call would come, or there would be somebody who would communicate. See, we have relatives, we have so many people around. How many of them ask whether you ate, whether you slept? There's so much that happens. When this call came, I still remember the day I had made pulao. So I rushed to the kitchen and I quickly started gulping the food because, when somebody says Baba had inquired about you and he said you have still not had food, look at the feeling that you can get, omnipresent. And then I rushed and I was having my food, and right after that, as I was washing my hand, my phone again rang, and the same person who was with Baba in Puttaparthi called me up and said, Swami is now happy you've had your food.
I can't believe this.
Yes. So what happened? It shook me. It took me a lot of time to understand the love. See, this is not about, many of us are always talking about miracles and we are talking about divinity coming and helping you. How many of us talk about love? How many of us talk about the love that you get from everyone around you, even from Swami, Baba? See, we all pray to so many saints, and there are so many people, gurus. How many of us are able to catch the love that they give you? How many of us can understand or be a recipient of love? That is, in true sense, even music by itself. How much can music give you in your heart? That's what comes out of them too. So I rushed the next day to Puttaparthi because it was a multiple emotion. Number one was, I was very touched that Swami had asked about me and that I did not have food. He knew it in Puttaparthi that I had not eaten for a day. The other side is the excitement that you were given attention by Baba and he remembers you. It's so beautiful. The third is to go and get the acknowledgement, go in person. So I took an APSRTC bus. It was 350 rupees at that time, the bus ticket. So I rushed to Puttaparthi. Next day morning, I sat. I was thinking that I would have a very great welcome from Swami, and I wanted to thank him. I was beaming with joy. But that's when you realize who Baba was. He looked at me with such grim face. The moment he saw me, he was so grim. And it was in Telugu. He said, in Telugu, edukku vanda? Why did you come? So I rushed and I folded my hands. I did not go near him. From far, I said, Swami, so much. Swami, nalla saapte. I was lost of words. I was just getting so many things in my head out in like a few words. I said, Swami, nalla saapte, amma paathikren. It was very vague. Then Swami said, Buddhi ledu. You don't have sense. Don't leave your mother and come to me. Never leave her and come. I told you I will take care of you and I will come when you take care of your mother. Why do you leave your mother and come? And then he said, don't do this. Puttaparthi vandam, Baba vandam. I still remember Swami told me. He said, you don't need Puttaparthi, you don't need Baba, you don't need anything, but be with your mother. Never leave her. And then then I was very emotional. I was choking and I didn't know. I expected something else, but that's the way he teaches you, And then he held me very lovingly. And that evening he had called me to have food with him. So I had the pleasure of sitting beside Baba and having food, and he had served me. At that time, he was telling me that don't leave anything and come rushing to me. Do your duty sincerely. I will come in search of you. This was the lesson that I learned from Swami all my life. So even now, whether I work or I play tabla or I go to a studio, duty first. I know the rest is taken care of.
Amazing. Wow. Yes. I absolutely love this. I think we need podcast dedicated just for this topic alone. And I want to bring you back for sure, just for that.
I'm quite. I came and I was thinking, what should I talk about? I don't even remember the films names. I don't watch movies. I'm not in the very big film scene, or I'm just inside this den. I do a lot of classical music. I do a lot of recording.
And
I've
magic.
dedicated my tabla playing to Rahman sir. I've not played for anybody else. Just maybe one or two recordings here or there. All my life has been only AR sir. So when this interview was coming, I was just thinking, what can I remember for so long, for so many years? I remember the sound, the song, the beat, but I don't know which movie name. I don't know the lyric, because I'm a person like that. I'm not this, but my heart and soul is there. But I didn't realize that our conversation would be like this.
Has to be
very much. Thank you very much.
It was meant to be like this.
Yes.
And I had to ask you something. Have you noticed? Of course, you have interacted with Sir.
Yes.
And whenever he smiles, his smile has reminded you, Swami?
Always. His face reminds me of
I thought it was just me.
No, that happens with even Ustad Zakir Hussain. That's because our life is a reaction, reflection, and resound. Swami has told this.
Right.
When you worship someone very deeply, and when you really look up to somebody very, very deeply, and you look up to them as deep as you would want to look up to Swami, they will look like one. That divinity is what smile you are seeing from Sir, and what I recognize, and the kind of feeling I have when he walks across is just a resound, reflection, and a reverberation of the same divinity inside Rahman sir also, right? Many of us stop thinking of, many of us just, we are so carried away by name, form, and sir as such. Every time he comes, I know when he walks past, see, even during rehearsals, even during recordings, if you see, when sir comes, the whole energy, everything around him changes. The moment he leaves, it changes. It's not about discipline. It's not about, I'm very clear about this, what I'm talking. It's not merely the discipline or the respect for sir that people have, which changes the climate around him. Just think of this thing. Across the world, there would be millions of people at that moment thinking about AR Rahman sir and feeling so great listening to his music and remembering sir. Why do you think Tirupati has the power? It's because of the devotees that goes and prays to the idol, and the idol gets the power from the devotees. Why do Mecca has that kind of a power? Because devotees throng there, the faith and the love, all the love, the faith, the inner core of yours, all comes together. That's where the power is. Just think of AR Rahman sir. How many people at this instance, at every second across the world, millions of them through radio and tapes and CDs and their iPods, actually listen to his music and think of him. Look at that energy that comes. And how much sir must be prepared to receive that energy. See, it's not easy to be Rahman sir.
Correct.
It's not merely about how many people he sees at that time or how many people are around him. It's very subtle. It's how can I explain it by words? I'm sure he will know it. At every instance, there's so much energy that comes into him. So he has to be that divine, and he has to. I have seen sir so meticulous in praying and so sincere when it comes to his praise. That keeps everything, the focus and the centering, as we call it. Centering is so beautiful with sir. So naturally, people like me, for example, Swami is always inside me. Swami, I keep remembering him at any moment, even at playful moments in my life and with my friends. Swami is never leaving me at all. So when you see sir, naturally that thing, you connect to him saying that the smile of Swami is like smile of sir. I have the same feeling with Ustad Zakir Hussain. I think that's our bhava. What is inside us, it's just a reaction, reflection, and resound of everything coming together. And I'm sure sir is carrying that for sure.
For sure. Yes. I can completely agree with that. And then the aura, that's exactly what you said. And then I have this every single time I see him. And how should I put it? Even when I get a note from him, my whole body shivers.
Yes.
For that for that very minute.
Yes.
And if I've spoken to him, I'm buzzing for the whole day. And he has just done something. It might be just a 1 minute conversation with him, but still the whole day I'm buzzing with positivity. All of a sudden I'm energized. I'm high on energy. And yeah, this I just couldn't describe. So I thought I probably was on one of those crazy ones who experiences something like that. And hence why I was keen to ask you about it.
Yeah, of course. In fact, when sir comes, I just go very silent. Everybody takes an opportunity to rush to him and speak, but I just quieten every time I see him.
Right.
Yes.
So, of course, you've been working with sir, and I want to ask you, when was the first time you met him, and
See,
what memories does it bring you?
It's a very different story than the usual. I always wanted to be around sir and at least play one single note, and that was my dream. And my mother used to tell me, "Oru naal Rahman sir ku vaasipa." She knew how much I loved him very deeply, musically, and I've not known him as a person at that time when I was still young in college. So Amma used to tell me that Vasipa, Swami Grace irukum Vasipa. So it was, I was in Kennedy Center in the US performing for a very senior musician in India. So it was a main concert. It was the Kennedy Center Festival. Right. And I was in a concert, and after the concert, right after the concert, I came back to the hotel room and my phone had singer Srinivas's missed call.
Okay.
So I thought he was going to talk about something else, and I sent him a text saying I'm in the US. He sent me back saying urgent, call back. So I immediately called sir, Srinivas sir.
Yeah.
Then he told me, எங்க இருக்க சிங்கப்பூர்ல வந்து ஒரு அர்ஜென்ட்டா ஒரு ஜெயஹோ டூர் போயிட்டு இருக்கு. There's a ஜெயஹோ tour going on in Singapore. And I would like you to go, and sir wanted to know if there was any tabla player. Are you free to go? Can you go? If you can go, then I will let your name know to him. And if you, I asked him, when should you be there? He said, you have to be there tomorrow. I said, sir, I am in Washington and Singapore is on the other side. And I don't know, you have to reach there, visa, there's so much. Very funnily, that's when you realize that divinity is very large. I already had a valid Singapore visa because just 2 weeks prior to that, I had a concert with Bombay Jayashri in Esplanade. So I already had a visa that was expiring only a month later. For some reason, always my visas are always extended visas. They never give me, even when I go to the US, it's always very, very long visas I get. Even Singapore, I don't know, everybody keeps telling me. The rest of the crew will get for 10 days, 15 days. Mine will be a very long, 3 month, 6 month visa. So Singapore unusually was a very long 3 month or 6 month visa that I had got, despite work visa. Yeah. So I told sir, I have a Srinivas sir, that I already have a visa, but how do I fly in? I mean, like by the time I fly and I reach Singapore, even if I took the earliest flight when I calculated, I would be only about 3 or 4 hours prior to the concert in Singapore, which means I rush to the stage and then play the first concert. So I asked him if that is okay. He said, no, he wants a tabla player. So can you go? And then they connected me to someone who was the organizing committee at that time in Singapore.
Yeah.
That person spoke to me and he said, okay, give me your passport number, everything, send me a copy. I will send you a ticket. To save time, I rushed to you will not believe it. I've never narrated this story. My sister was in New Jersey. So I told her, see, I have to rush to Singapore. And she said, what do you mean? How can you reach there by tomorrow? I said, if I catch this flight, I will reach Singapore just few hours before the concert and I can't miss this opportunity. And then my sister was like, okay, you're in Washington. I said, I have to go to New York somehow. I have to take a flight there because I cannot take any other flight. I have to go to John F. Kennedy Airport. I still remember, without a ticket, without anything, without absolute no confirmation, I left the Washington hotel. I had only 3 tablas with, I didn't even know what pitch, what song, what tabla to carry. I didn't nothing mattered to me. I knew my tablas can retune itself if I go there. Because that was the greatest opportunity. I would make my tabla go to whatever pitch it wants. That was the kind of energy I had at that time. I rushed to JFK. Left and right, I was trying to contact this person who was to send me the ticket. He kept telling me, no, ticket is not available. There was a conversation up and down between us and nothing seemed happening. I thought I'll take the risk. I'll go land in Singapore. I'll tell him I'll buy the ticket. And I called him back and I said, sir, I'm in the airport already. I have a flight in another 4 hours. I will buy the ticket and I will reach there. He said, if you can do that, come over. So I booked the ticket in the airport. I flew to Singapore. I got down. And when I got down and when I just walked out, that's when I realized there was this placard that said Sai Shravanam, ARR Rahman. I tell you, even now, that the feeling that you see, Sai Shravanam with that name ARR Rahman team, and somebody comes to receive you, my eyes welled up. My eyes welled up like anything, because it's years of tapas, to be a part of him. And I rushed, and there was this huge, lovely, big hotel they put me in, and it was the Marina Bay Sands, and that's where the concert was. And we stayed there. My roommate was Bunny Dayal at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was sharing a room with Benny. And when I went straight to the stage, and the songs was, see, number one, I love Sir's song, but I've never followed in which bar what has to come. I just engulf. So I didn't know for which song I had to play, which song I did not play, where were the tabla cues, and nothing. And at that time, the orchestra was a foreign orchestra. It was led by John Beasley. So the only people I knew was Flute Naveen sir and Keith sir and my friend Sanjeev, who was on the guitar. All of them were very nice and very nicely welcoming me. At that time, I didn't see sir. I did not have an opportunity to see sir. I thought I'll go and see him, but he was not there. The first time I ever met him was during the show. That's when, there was a couple of rehearsals, a few songs, and then the screen opened and we were already on stage.
So you didn't see him during the rehearsals, is it? Or
no, I did not get a chance to talk to him at all. He just would come, sing and go. I used to be in the tabla podium, and my legs were not walking up to him. How can I tell you?
Okay.
I was just sitting there and, in awe, see him. And what I started to do, I was playing tabla in almost every song. It really didn't matter to me. Wherever my tabla pitch was, I started playing and everything. And there was nobody telling me, play here, play there. So I was just playing. And then there were 1 or 2 cues. I was playing it like a fusion concert, to be very honest. Wherever I felt like grooving in, I used to groove in. I still remember, just during the show, there was this one song. I remember it's Dil Se. There was this point where there's this piece that comes. That's where Naveen sir plays. That's where I was just grooving on the tabla. And actually, sir was there. That was the first time I remember. He turned and looked at me like this and nodded his head. Do you have any idea what that means?
Wow.
He just looked at me and nodded his head, because he didn't. Even today, I don't know whether he looked at me to say, man, here is not the tabla, or he looked at me with conviction as to who is this guy playing the tabla, or why is he playing, or is it nice? I don't know. Okay. I was playing, but it was such a beautiful smile. He looked at me and I was so thrilled. I can't tell you how thrilled I was. And the concert was over, and just backstage, I still remember, Swami Dorai sir was there. He said, Vanga, sir kuprar. So I rushed to sir. And sir looked at me, hey, you're the new tabla player. I said, yes, sir. I'm Sai. I said, hey, very nice tone. That's the word he used. He said, very nice tone. Very nice. That's all he spoke. He didn't speak anything else. That's all he spoke. And ever since then, probably destiny took me to play tabla in every single possible music that he has been doing. If it is tabla, I've had the chance to be a part of most of the projects after that, with God's grace.
Wow.
That was my first meeting. And then it was very beautiful, during the rehearsal, and I myself knew, okay, he would expect me to play here, play there. And I did not have tablas that would tune to those pitch, because film music, you have multiple pitches. I'd gone for a classical concert which just had like a couple of pitch, and I had a spare tabla. So I really had to pull it up and down. I did not want to go there and say, I don't have an instrument. See, that's also one thing that you must have as discipline. I learned from Swami. Never say no to anything. Never say I don't have. Never say I can't. So I pushed it. And between the songs, I used to jump out of the stage, tune for the next song, come back to the stage, tune for the next song, come back to the stage. So in that concert, I would keep jumping out of the stage now and then. So that was my first experience with Sir in Singapore.
So beautiful.
And then right after I came back from Singapore, he had called me for a recording. And he tracked me, and I played, it was Tumko Palia, Rockstar.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So Sir was only recording at that time. So I went there and I started playing the tabla. And on the talkback, he just said, nice. That's all. I still remember that pitch and the tone. Nice. He said, I started playing. And then there was the sarangi bit, and I was playing, and then he pressed the talkback, and I said, and the sarangi nadula nalla or grrr, play something, nice, super adana, just fill in. Very quick. No, recording was very quick. There was no time or discussion or nothing. Just play. So I just started reacting to the song. I didn't know it was a take. He said, play. So I kept playing. Sarangi came, song came. There were places where I was playing, then I stopped. I tried to look at him, but his head would be down like this, listening. And your hands would play, legs would tremble, heart would beat. You know what it means. So, but of course, when I'm in music, all these emotions are, it's just that when you come back, it's that feeling, but you're very conscious with what you want to give to the producer or the director. So very quick, the recording was just about, I would say, under 10 minutes. And then the song just ran past, and then Sir got up and he left. And then there was somebody else who had come in. I thought, okay, we'll wait, and then there's going to be another take and something is going to happen. And then I waited. No, nobody was coming. Nobody was talking about it. Then I got up, I went out. Then I again came and sat. The whole place was new. The studio, everything was new. I came and sat back. And then one of the engineers boys very kindly came and told me, sir, you can leave. I was like, man, the kind of feeling you have. Correcta Vashuma, did we play well? Did we not play well? Did he like? Did he not like? Why did he call me? And everything is over. Then later on, when the song released, every single note that I had played in the monitor or whatever he did was there in the song. And that kind of opened me up like, wow. He does magic. And it was just 10 minutes, and the song is still very beautiful. It's an amazing song.
Of course. Yeah, I love that song too. What sort of briefing did he give you?
There was no briefing. No briefing.
So he basically asked you to just play?
See, the song was put, I tuned my tabla to the pitch. At the time I heard the song, I tuned it to the pitch. And then quickly Sir had come. He played the song. I said, yeah, go ahead, play. So I started playing. The first word after in the talkback, just as I kept playing, was, he said, nice. That's all. I said, okay. And then within moments, he stopped and he said, and the sarangi nadula, edana nalla grrrna abdi vasi, play some nice fillers. Like that, he told. This is all exactly this. There's nothing else. And then I played. And then Sir was just listening. His head was moving, and then he left. And that's still there in the song. Whereas there are many other recordings where you get a lot of briefs. Sir gives you ideas. For example,
briefs. Just curious.
Hey, Mr. Minor song. Okay. So, Kavya Talaivan. So when I went there, song was a very bongo, that kind of a song, and I was sitting there on the tabla. See, I come from a classical background, and we're all players who always fill a lot. See, in film music and classical music, there's a lot of difference. In film music, the lesser you play, the better it is. In classical music, the more you play, the more you're given interest and name and attention. So this was like, my God, in film music, you have to really be like, just play those 1 or 2 notes. Mr. Minor recording was going on, and Sir was only recording at that time. And I started playing. First, his assistant had recorded, his engineer had recorded. And then Sir came in and he heard it, and I think he thrashed everything that was played. So Sir looked at me and he said, left matta vasi, play only a left hand.
Oh, wow.
And then he said, adukapra right matta vasi, play a right hand. And then very nicely he told me, ingala ibdida, left taniya vasi, right taniya vasikrom, paravaliya அப்படினார். So I was like, yes sir, for sure. So I was playing the left hand, and then he gave me the groove. He said, do that. So the moment I played, again, he'd say, nice, cool. No, words like that, very nice. It's a very nice feeling. Even that one word is so beautiful. He'll say, nice, cool. So, and then he said, play a brush-like thing on the right. So he recorded my left hand separately, right hand separately, and then got the groove together. Even in the song, nobody knows there's a tabla, but actually in the groove, you hear something like a bongo, and all those bass things come from the tabla. While that's why Kavya Telam, Mr. Minor has a tabla credit. But if you hear, it doesn't have the tabla sound where you actually identify there's a tabla in the song. So the way he creatively,
after this podcast, is listen to the track.
Yeah. So the way he uses the sound and how he layers it, he used tabla as a layer behind a very nice groove. Yeah. It was a very nice, very Caribbean kind of a groove. Very country, and it's very different. It's a bongo Congo groove. But tabla is actually a very main layer, and there would be, on the credits, my name on it. And that's when you realize, okay. So he was trying to, establish to me, inga naanga eppadi vena use பண்ணுவோம், I can use you in any manner. So like that, very, very nice. Also in Kavya Talevan, there was a re-recording that was going on. So it was after a very long time, all the musicians sat together, and there was this big screen where the film was played, and Sir had somebody who was conducting, and Sir was giving input. Very like, vintage feel. Nowadays, everything is nuclear. We all go at separate times and go perform and come. Yeah. At that time, we had veena, sitar, dilruba, tabla, mridangam player, drums, and all of us were together. And we were all there, and Sir was conducting. So there was this one fight scene where, he wanted some tabla solo and stuff. So very creatively, he would give me a big reverb and delay. Like you play a note and your headphones gives you 5-6 notes as a slap back. You play dung, it will give a dung, 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 dung. So he said, react to that sound. Look at the way he records. He said, react to that reverb and delay and play something. So I was just playing a solo on top of it, and I was just reacting to the screen and playing. And it was like very nice, and he would record. Yeah, that was also very different. Sometimes when he comes and records, it's a very, very different thing, because I think he thinks through sound. He doesn't think merely as a musician. He thinks through sound. He knows what he wants. He can hear what he wants. And he doesn't limit it to the instrument or the player. He just wants something, and he will use you. So you're a tool to his creativity, Right. You just don't think you're an artist and you're a tabla player. He may use your tabla, and he may use you to get what he wants. That's what I love most about Rahman sir. Really.
Amazing. I love this. I love hearing these stories. Also, when you go into record, so there's already a tabla piece already should I call it pre-played, if that is a word, where you add a layer over it. Is that how it is? Or is it? Yeah. Okay. It's more along the lines of jamming, and you arrive at that needs to be played.
No. Sir is very clear. He has his ideas played on the keyboard at times. See, there are many pieces where he would just use a sample tone, a sampler tabla, and he would have already grooved what he wanted, or the loop that he wanted. So there will be something in place that will be a brief for me when Sir is not there. Or he would have given a brief to his music supervisor who knows what he wants. So they will say, Sir, ipadi veno. The beauty is with Rahman sir, they also give us very clear brief what you want, And there is also freedom for creativity. You could also embellish and they take everything, and then sir probably edits and makes it, sometimes picks up what he wants. Especially during the pandemic now, that's also a blessing. Pandemic in a way became a blessing because I always wanted to record for sir. One thing I have always maintained is when I go as a tabla player, I don't talk about sound or engineering, or I don't do anything. And when I engineer, I don't go details of I know tabla, and when I record another tabla player, I don't push them to limits. So I put a barrier for myself. So when I go to Rahman sir's studio and other things, I don't talk anything about sound. I don't talk about mixing. I don't talk about mics. Although that's my passion, I keep very quiet. I just do my duty. I go there as a tabla player and I come back. So with sir, if you see, I think whatever he does is through sound. Whatever he makes us play is in the perspective of sound. So there are many times during the recordings, if you see, layers of tonality is given to you, ideas are given to you, creative aspects of you are taken. They will say, okay, play something, play some fillers. All of that goes to his machine. I think he just chooses what he wants and it goes. During the pandemic, I had the chance to record in my own studio right from here and send the tracks to him. So they would send me sir's brief as voice notes. So they would give me ideas on what his vision is and what is the groove that he wants. So I would play multiple layers of tabla from the studio and send it to them, and they will edit. For example, Mimi, Choti Si song. Choti Si Chiraiya, that song is there at Mimi. So I was given a brief sir's voice note as a reference. So the song was in A. So one thing with sir is you should not, I learned is give as much as you can. Don't go and ask or, limit yourself. So I played an A tabla, I played an E tabla, 2 different grooves, 3 options. And then interludes, one as a freelance classical player, one as a very tight playing. So I gave multiple options. And then what comes was in the film, if you see, there are portions where he uses the E tabla, there are portions where he will use the A tabla, and there are portions where both came together. So that's the creative part of edit, I think sir does.
Amazing. And talking about Mimi, I take it that must have happened remotely, right?
Yeah, remotely, correct.
Right. So you were recording via Zoom.
No, I was very lucky. That's what I said. They trusted me, sent the session. I played the tabla here in my studio. I would press the record myself and play. And then I would do a basic edit and I would send the session back to Panchatan, and they will send a message saying, okay, all approved, or one sir says, okay. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's done remotely. Yep.
So good. And what are some of the conversations that comes to your mind that you have had with him? Could be off the record. Doesn't have to be during the recording or something.
See, there was once in the flight, we were coming back from, I think, Nagpur, if I remember. And the sir was sitting in, I think, 1A or 1B seat. And I was somewhere.
Usually that.
Yeah. I was in the 3rd row, somewhere sitting.
Yeah.
So there was somebody taking a selfie continuously with sir. I think sir was not comfortable. So he looked at me and he said, can I come there? Come near me, and ask this person to go there. So I immediately told the person next to me saying, sir, if you don't mind, could you swap seat? Could you go there? And there's a person. I did not mention sir's name also. I said, they would like to come here. So is it okay? He said, all right. And then that person moved from me next to me. And then that was the first time, sir was sitting right next to you in the flight. For 2 hours, you have AR Rahman sir sitting right next to you. What kind of a feeling will you get? And at that instance, I thought to myself, I never see him sleeping. I never see him resting. And just as Sai Shravanam, I feel my life is so full, running a studio and playing music and having a family. Just think of how busy can AR Rahman sir be and how much he would be loaded with information and people wanting to speak to him, and even people clicking pictures with him. He changed a seat. So at that moment, I realized probably he's coming here for that silence and moment. So I held myself completely tight-lipped, very quiet. Sir moved in, he sat. Generally, he spoke to me, "Hi, how are you? What are you doing nowadays?" I spoke very minimally with sir because I knew that 1.5 hours he may sleep. So he put his thing down and he very quietly sat and he dozed off in a second. And I did not allow the air hostess or anybody to leave, come. There was so much attention on sir, everybody wanted to come and give something to sir.
Correct.
The hostess and everybody. So I would take everything that would come to sir and keep it next to me. I don't know if he'll listen to this conversation also. There's so much going on inside me. So I would keep everything on the thing and I would not disturb him at all. He went into very deep sleep and just before the landing. So I showed him everything that was there for him. Sir, ungalku dhaan kodutanga. He said, take it home, take it, you take it. I said, okay, sir. And then he had he asked me, what are you doing? What do you do otherwise? And what kind of recordings are you doing? So he had a very brief conversation with me on I was only answering to his questions. There were a million questions I wanted to ask him. But one thing that I've learned from Swami also is when Swami speaks to you, you speak back to Swami, the whole value is very different. You can always go up to Swami and keep on asking questions, but that's not what it is. So even one word comes, it's gold. So with sir also, when he speaks, I know the best comes. I know he wants to speak. I know he wants your attention. And that's when there is value. So the only thing I do is now and then send him mails on any very nice things that happens in my life. Or I always seek blessings from, when my mother was there, I used to have that feeling that Amma is there. And when Swami was there, I used to rush to Puttaparthi. Nowadays, what I do is I control myself, but when it is a very, very important moment musically or a milestone, or there is something very nice that happens in my career, then I very quietly drop in a mail or a message to sir. And then he would send a very, very nice, loving reply. And then it's just silence. Conversations and words with sir probably will have lesser value than the silence that you get, just the presence and knowing him and just serving him is, to me, a very big thing. So my conversations with him are, there are many conversations I've had with him. For example, there was once after the recording, I was just passing by, a sir was downstairs and then he looked upon me and then I wished him, I just went to wish him. And then he called me. He was talking about classical music. He was talking about music from Pakistan. He was talking about folk music and amazing folk artists who are there. Then it was in the midnight. I least expected. He spent about 2 hours sitting and showing me clips from YouTube of fantastic artists, some fantastic harmonium solos, tabla players, composition, young artists. And then he was asking me, tell me some classical artists who sing well. What do you feel? And then we were talking about sarangi for a long time. He had a dream to have a sarangi ensemble. So we connected to a sarangi player and a lot of interactions like that. Very, very nice interactions. But as I said, I will allow the conversation to come from him rather than push a conversation with sir. So many conversations like that. And sometimes there was once in the hotel, I was just standing somewhere and he was coming by and he was like, did you have food? He asked me. I said, yes, sir. Rumba late aayirthu. Did you have food? I said, yes, sir. So those small things that he gives attention to, I keep a very low profile, but very, very nice interaction. Many, many instances like this.
Amazing. I love it. I love hearing stories like these because these memories, we cherish them, right?
There's also this, I still remember, it was very late in the night. I received a phone call about 12:30, 1 o'clock. Said, there's one song urgently you have to play. So can you come? I was already in the bed resting and that day my son was very sick. So I had to do the duty of, taking care of him, pressing his leg. He was very young. He had very high fever. And so I had to really take care of him. So I was awake and usually I put my son, only sir's number and his office numbers will ring even in silent mode. That's my sister's and sir's number and a couple of other numbers from his office are the only numbers where even in do not disturb rings. So that night I rushed to the studio And when I went and played, the song started with the word Sai. Sai, it started. I was like, my God, where is that? And then it sounded like a bhajan. I'm like, I didn't know it was a film. I didn't know it was 99 songs. See, we don't go ask questions, just go do your duty and come. So there was no questions asked. And Sai, there's this song that's coming, and I started grooving, and the recording was going on. Sir was not there. I played, and to me, inside of me, it was very, very, very big thing, because playing a Sai song playing a Baba song in Panchatan under Sir's composition is the pinnacle of my experience divinely with music and Sir and everything. It may sound very hyper exaggerated when I say this, but deep inside me, all of it coming together. It's like Rahman Sir coming to Puttaparthi, It's like that for me. So I really felt very, very touched, and I can't tell you what it meant to me. And very, very quietly, I came down with the tabla, and it was about 3:30 a.m. Sir had gone out, and I think at that time he was just coming in, and he got down from the car, looked at me. He said just one thing. Vachacha, did you play? I said, yes, sir. Sai song, I told Sai to play, he said. So I was just thinking, his Sai would have been, his Allah, his this thing, and the divinity inside us has an opportunity to connect to that. It's a very, as I said, it's a very divine experience. I don't know if many people will understand what I say. Yeah. It may sound very weird for the younger generation now, but that's the only truth that exists in the world, I feel. So how that one Sai song in the career of Rahman Sir till date, I as Sai Shravanam was able to play a single note in it. Man, what more can I ask for? It's just surrendering. It's a feeling of surrender. It's a feeling of gratitude. It's a feeling of exuberance. It's a feeling of incredible blessing, joy, absolute silence. What can I say? Everything together. And then even during the shoot, Sai song shoot was there. Video shoot was going on. During the shoot, tabla's pedestal was somewhere else. There's this main stage, and the tabla alone was somewhere in the front in a small area. And typically, tabla in a concert, you have 30 songs, and we just have 3 or 4 songs to play. So you cannot always be in the front, and it may be like visually, it may not be the best to have idling musicians. And so we were in one corner. I didn't interact with Sir. I was very quiet. He used to walk past me, go up and down, very busy. So I never had an opportunity to even say a hello to Sir. Just during the Sai song, there was this, I think the Telugu version that was going on in the microphone, Sir was telling. So this is a Sai bhajan, and I dedicate this song to my Sai Shravanam, who's playing the tabla. My eyes were full, and I had Gatam Karthik sitting next to me, Karthik sir. Yeah. He was tapping my lap like this because I became very emotional when Sir said that. Amazing. He said, dedicate this song to Sai, my tabla player. He said it was not on the video, but it was off the record just prior. So yeah. That's it. And what would you want? It's just the feeling of being blessed by Swami through Rahman sir. So it's a great feeling. Small things. There are so many musicians like Shivamani sir and all these keyboard players who have a zillion moments to interact, and they have so many notes to play in the song. Tabla is, you play now and then and add and fill in places. Those Sufi areas where Khwaja comes and Tere Bina comes, and we all get very excited going, and and it's very beautiful. What can I say?
Amazing. I love it. I was actually going to talk to you specifically about the Sai song, and I didn't even have to ask you anything about it. And so you wear a number of hats, obviously. Tabla player, and then recording engineer, mixing engineer, and scoring engineer as well. So I don't know how you do it, but I'm just wondering, where do you draw the inspiration from? I mean, when you're at it, like as a mixing engineer, what sort of what inspires you in terms of obviously you have to nail it, you have to get it right and deliver it on time. So where do you draw your inspiration from at any given point, be it mixing, recording, or scoring, or playing tabla?
See, sound inspires me.
Mm.
Just the tone or sound inspires me. Even when I record, when I have a fantastic instrument, when I have a fantastic artist, when you have fantastic notes coming from it, it automatically inspires you. See, many of us think that we do music or we do mixing or we do recording or we compose. That's not the fact. It knows to come. A song knows to go where it wants to go. We are just an instrument. But we have to be a fit instrument for it to pass through us. See, that's one thing that you must know. We shouldn't think that we are doing something or we are mixing something or we are recording something or we are creating something. It goes through us. But for it to go through us, you have to be fit enough mentally to be able to handle the music. And that's why it has chosen you to be a composer or a mixing engineer or a tabla player, and it goes through you. So there's this creation that works through you. So my inspiration has always been sound. I call it Nada Brahmam. See, that word Nada Brahmam is not... In Sanskrit, this word Nadam has no equivalent to in English or any other language. Nadam. It's not sound. Nadam, it means sound with life. Nadam is sound, an epitome of sound. The word Nada. That's why God is described as Nada Brahmam. Brahmam means the all-pervasive. Nada Brahmam means the all-pervasive sound. The creation comes from sound. So for me, sound inspires me. Just listening inspires me. So all of that comes. And as I record, when I record, there's so much ideas that come. There is so much that I get from artists. There is so much that I give as an artist, right? And then 2 to 3 days later, you come and listen to it. It will be so new and so amazing. And then you'll be like, oh, wow, so much has come. When you do it, you don't realize. 3-4 days later, you come and listen and there'll be this beautiful something that's on your screen and on your machine. That's when you realize that probably you're not doing. It just does by itself and you forget what you have done. And 4 days, because if you have done something, you will remember it 4 days later. But that's when you start to hear yourself and like, oh, wow, this is so beautiful. Even with Rahman sir's music, if you see, you would have played on the record. But when you go back to the rehearsals, I mean, you start to play for the song, there's so much that would have gone. And that's when you realize, oh, nambaleda vaashirugom, but now you yourself have to practice and get it back to your hand to play. And that's when you realize you don't play. Something else plays through you.
Amazing.
So inspiration comes from sound for me. Everything for me is sound. Beautiful. It's just sound and sound and sound. And as, for example, mixing and other things, my love for recording, mixing and sound came because of Rahman sir, Sridhar sir, H. Sridhar sir. And because the moment Roja came out, the moment Tirda came out, there's something that you started hearing out of all your earphones and boom boxes that you own. It was incredible. Something new started coming up. Something that you've never heard. I've heard a lot of Michael Jackson and everything, but who would hear everything in an Indian format? Great sound in a very Indian Tamil song. This was like sweeping me. I mean, I wouldn't study for exams. Why would I want to go for board exam? I used to think, why am I going to school when I can actually listen to music like this, you know? And I've told this to my parents. Ma, Rahman party ketale poroma, edukuma school pono, you know, why should you go to school? And when Tirda and all came up, my friend used to have this car called Tata Estate at that time. It used to be this big car and he used to have a Pioneer system in it. And Rangila song used to sound great only in his car. So during lunch, his car used to come to drop. I used to take the cassette in my school bag. And when his car used to come and drop him, I used to take special permission from the watchman to go out of my school gate to get into the car. I'll play this song and that one downbeat used to come. That was the seed for my love for sound, you know, hearing that. Same way that tanaha. I mean, see, many of us think so many see, there are multiple things. You have great composers in the industry, and there are people who write great music. Incredible. But think of Sir, he thinks through sound, he just that Bombay theme, one ting, 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 just one triangle bell, and it shook the world. Tanaha, tanaha, one pan flute on a keyboard, like with the correct reverb. It shook the world. So he could communicate to the whole industry that with nothingness or with just something, you could still engulf people. And there is this great orchestration that he does, brilliant sound that comes during Chandralekha, all that keep aside. Even that happens, but even this happens. Absolute quietness, absolute silence. That Bombay theme, just ting, ting, ting. And that one bass drone, that period era, he used to use this, whether it is Vidugadaya song or anything from Iruvar to a re-recording, he used to have this one low note that will keep going on. And then Tanpura. Tanpura has been existing for eons in Indian music. There has been great music from R.D. Burman and S.D. Burman and, some of the greats. But when Sir came in, even think of Vidugadaya when the track starts, or Nila Kaigiradu. Way Tampura will stand out and the voice will come to everything. Just think of it. After our conversation, go and listen. Even one small Tanpura, he gave it its pedestal. He gave it its sound. Even a drone, he gave it its sound. That's when you realize that this person is meant to think through sound. This person's inspiration is sound. And music is a byproduct of sound, right? It's a byproduct of sound. And so he thinks through the source. He doesn't think through music. He thinks through the source. So when your source is strong, he is very clear. I'll tell you, we are talking of all the good things. I have not talked about the embarrassments I've had during the rehearsals and stuff with Sir, because you must always balance things with, somebody seeing this interview shouldn't think, Sai is very lucky. No, I've had nice bootings also. So I still remember there was this concert where, see, when you go internationally, you have luggage issues, you can't take a lot of things. See, as a tabla, with keyboard players and drummers, they always have assistants. You get extra tickets for all of them. There are people to carry their instruments. As a tabla player, we cannot ask for all those, but it's very difficult to carry those 30, 40 kilo bags and, you have to handle it all by yourself. Sometimes it becomes very difficult. So there are songs where dholak is needed and, so what I did, I changed the tabla and I changed the skin head into a dholak. So so just the right hand instead of the tabla, I made it a dholak. And then what happened during the rehearsal, I don't remember which song. I'm bad at it, but yeah, it was one of the songs and we were in Dubai. So I started playing and then suddenly during the rehearsal, what is that noise? Sir said, what is that noise? So I was thinking he was telling something else. And that dholak was kept in the tabla mic, right in the tabla mic. So it was not EQ'd properly. They had EQ'd for the tabla and I had just kept that dholak top near the mic. Then he said, who is that? What's that sound? I knew, damn, it's me, gone. So first thing is surrender. You should never try to hide and save yourself. The better you surrender to something. So I said, sir, is it this sound I played? It's not sounding good. And everybody was there. Everybody was witnessing this conversation. I said, okay, sir, and I kept it aside. And there's this very senior tabla player called Neelakantan.
Right.
He has probably 10 times more experience or 100 times more experience than me because he's been playing tabla since the days when Rahman sir started his career. Neelu sir. So he was sitting next to me. So he had a dholak and he started playing. This satta nalla irukku. Sir said that sound is very nice. And then I knew, man, this is gone. Our idea, something gone. Don't know what to do. And then at that time, KJ Singh sir was the sound engineer, live sound engineer. And he came running up and he said, "Hey, what happened?" I said, "Sir, I don't know. I have a fantastic tone here, but it doesn't translate." Then there was this gap during the lunch. So I took that instrument and I told him, "Sir, for travel, I made this only for our concert." So kept a tabla and made it like, he said, "Play." So I played it and I showed it to him. He said, "Hey, it's very nice. It sounds great." I said, "Idida sir vaasche." I was trying to save myself in front of sir just to feel good during the lunch. So I said, "This is what I played." I said, "It sounds okay. But anga nalla illa. Ask them to keep another mic for you." I said, "Okay." And then KJ sir came and he kept another mic and then it sounded good. And sir acknowledged when the next rehearsal happened, he looked at me and he acknowledged that the sound was okay.
So it was the mic appo.
See, basically I should have told the people that in the tabla mic, I'm going to bang this dolak like thing, and I didn't do it, and sir got so disturbed that that was one thing.
So the mic differs, like in instrument.
The EQ differs. The EQ differs. It was too loud. It was too loud for tabla. They had done something, and right there I shifted this, and then I kind of messed. Like for example, just before our show, I was asking you to turn and go. It's like that. You should know where to use the microphone, and it's just movement like that. So that happened, and then there was once there was a solo he wanted us to play. Some song was happening. So he looked at me and said, "Hey, play one nice solo, tabla solo, along with drums." So we kind of played something and we fixed something. And when sir came, out of excitement, we all went out of metronome. Just in the excitement, we wanted who will give tabla solo in a concert of Rahman sir. So we were like, nice chance, we all out of excitement, everyone went off tempo. And then it's like, what is this? Not nice. And then he cut it, and that solo was like cut. So there were great opportunities which were lost because of excitement. But with that, you learn so beautifully, and then you realize, how composure makes a huge part when you are in front of 100,000 people. And then just a few concerts later, there was this violinist called Anne-Marie Cologne who used to play for sir in a very brief set of concerts. Those places, there used to be a nice tabla solo with the violin, and we used to have small interactions. And just before a very classical piece. At that time, you knew what to play and not go overexcited and try to thrash the tabla just because you get that 1 minute solo. And, and then, things start to. So these are also moments where you've been, yeah.
I love it. This is great. I mean, I think I have to bring you back for podcast 2.0 as well. No, this is actually 2.0, maybe 3.0. So there's so much to hear. And just out of curiosity, you being a mixing engineer as well, do you go back and dissect sir's tracks in terms of to figure out how it could have been mixed?
I used to do it. In his older records, I used to really go and dissect the kind of, I used to keep rewinding tape days. I used to rewind, listen, right, as to see how this sound comes. How did he do this? How did he mix strings? How did he mix tabla? The vocals, the way he used to treat. First time, you would hear vocals with proper reverbs and delays, and all these voices used to shine. Hariharan sir voice used to shine. And so I used to dissect a lot. Even nowadays, I do listen to and I dissect, but my thought process over time has evolved. And, I'm a mixing engineer myself. I do a lot of work. So I learn from everything. There is nothing. I learn from my own work. When I go back and listen to it 2 weeks later, you will feel like, I should have done this. We should have gotten better. So I listen to my own mix. I dissect. So like that I do, of course, yes.
Right. So do you get picky when you hear your own mixing? Is that usually...
I always get picky. I'll always be like, there are some times where you feel very nice, and there are times where you feel some divinity has done it. That's why it's so good. Sometimes it happens.
Right.
But sometimes you get picky. It's a mixed emotion. It depends.
Yeah.
You can't own anything, that much I know. The only thing that I learned in the last 20, 25 years of being in music is You try not to own anything.
Right.
You're a conduit and it comes through you. That's it. Serve until you can.
Mm.
And I work very closely with Rajkumar Bharati. He is the great grandson of Bharatiyar. He lost his voice during a concert while singing. During the concert, he just lost his voice in a snap.
Mm.
And I know a friend of mine who wrote to me on Instagram. He said, "Sir, I'm a sound engineer and I'm a big fan of your work, but I lost my hearing. And could you tell me how with 1 year I can understand and mix?" When these messages come, when I see people like Rajkumar sir, I just know one thing. Until the gift is on you, until you can hear well, until you can think music, until your fingers can play, have gratitude and do your fullest, because something is given to you and something can choose to go out of you. So that kind of realization I always have, as until we should do our best, and you just be a worthy instrument, be a conduit for music to pass through you. Yep.
Again, I just can't resist myself asking you this because of the fact that you wear multiple hats. But again, as a mixing engineer hat, right? How do you infuse creativity in it? So because you already have a track that's almost done and it's coming to you, and your role now is to mix it and of course make it sound even more amazing. But is there any room for creativity there? And also my second part of that question is, again, as a mixing engineer, um, of course, look, the short form of what I actually wanted to ask you was, how do you do it without getting fatigued with the mixing? Because with mixing, obviously you look at the decibels and the effects, and I'm just making it up, but how do you get away from not being fatigued with doing things that probably on a daily basis as well? So sorry, it's a long question.
Yeah. So see, a mix can actually make or break a song. There are times where your mixing can really bring a song out so amazing that sometimes the people who work with you go flabbergasted as to, sir, enna sir panninga, that kind of thing. And there are times where fantastic song can go really wrong when you handle it with poor priorities, as to not understanding the producer's viewpoint or the music director's viewpoint, or not understanding their brief, or handling it very insensitively. So mixing to me is a very, very important ingredient. So it's like this: you have a fantastic car made, but if your paint work is not good and it doesn't come to you great in the showroom, you're never going to buy that car, no matter what engine or no matter how great it is. It has to look good. So mixing is kind of a job that presents the final sound to everyone, So that aspect of it, when I handle, I'm very, very conscious about it. When I'm, as I told you, I always wanted to be a music composer, producer, tabla player. I never wanted to be a mixing engineer. So being a mixing engineer, all my love for being what I was starts to come and fall into the mixing. So I start to think like a music director. I start to feel very possessive about the music that I'm handling during mixing. So I'm very, very conscious. Okay, this would have been done for this sake. The acoustic guitar is supposed to come like this. The drums has to sound like this. This song has a certain texture. Second thing, I always see mixing as a story. There's a story to tell in every song. Mixing is not merely sound. It's a story that you're trying to convey. It's a very beautiful story that you want to bring together. So how do you bring that overview? How do you actually present it to the audience? How beautiful can it be? So it is fatiguing. So what I see, you can see my hair on, what happens to you when you sit and work all like 18, 19 hours a day. But let me tell you one thing. When you love something very deeply, very passionately, time and fatigue actually doesn't exist when you are in that process. And when all of that is done and gone, a week later, you're bowled down to the floor. And it comes much later. But over time, I've also realized the discipline of good health and sleep and fatigue and respecting the ears, not being exposed to 90, 100 decibels of sound on for 10, 12 hours a day. So nowadays, what I do is I also realize that I can mix better when I rest my ear very well. So every time you give it a little break, it's like you have a chocolate cake and you have a mango cake and then you have a vanilla cake. And then all of a sudden somebody brings a rasagulla to you. You will never know what the rasagulla is, right? So it's the same. All the sense organ needs a break. All the sense organ needs space. Sometimes wisdom and experience helps us cross that limitation and you can still deliver great things. But now in the recent times, I've started realizing that if I give myself that rest and good ear rest and give myself that break, my efficiency of work is better. What I can do in 10 hours, I can do in 4 hours. What I can do in 12 hours, I can do in 6 hours. Quality doesn't change. And yes, sometimes fatigue. You mix a song and it's great that day and you give it to everyone, and the next day morning you come and listen, you just realize that the bass is a bit booming or it's too sharp because your ears would have been so hurt and tired. You would keep increasing the treble so much, and the next day you come and it sounds so chill and cheesy. So that's when you realized, oh God, fatigue has taken over you and your ears have actually kind of cheated you. So you have to revise that song and you have to come back to the song. So mixing is a very fatiguing process, but mixing is also a very responsible process because you hold complete responsibility to what the composer. So you are in the midst, you are right here at the center between the creator and the listener. So you are going to give something to the listener and they are completely depending on the kind of sound that you're going to give them. And at the same time, here you have the creator who is actually leaving so much to you. So the responsibility that you have between the listener and the creator is what I call the mixing and mastering engineer.
So amazing. I love this. I love this answer.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring to hear that too. And so now again, just as an extension to that, so once you have mixed it, there is some sort of a QA process that happens where you hear the track on multiple devices, and then do you also get feedback from the creators as well?
Yeah,
And
I used to do that.
appropriate?
Yeah, I used to do that a lot.
Right.
See, I've also grown from a very humble background and I could not have great facilities. Over time, I could slowly buy things. Like I started with those very, very small speakers. And then this speaker that my friend had gifted me from the US. And then I had bought another speaker. And then like that, you learn. So when you don't have the kind of a great room or this thing, you may have to go and jump multiple places to check whether it's translating well, because you don't have an optimal place where you understand what you do actually translate well in the consumer electronics. Okay. But over time, at least in the last 5 years, there's been a lot of evolution. I understood my room. I understood the whole space. I've understood the speakers that I have. I've understood what I record. So now I have, with whatever resource that I have, I've created a kind of a room and environment where 90% of what I do starts to translate out well, but still, for the benefit of doubt, I always go back and listen to in my car. I play it to someone. Then I also get a feedback from the music directors and composers or producers, arrangers, directors. They listen in any environment. They could listen to it in a Bluetooth speaker, which is kept in a shelf that is booming. It might be in a corner of a room and then it might be so resonating. So they will give me a crazy feedback. They'll say, no, sir, bass guitar is too much of this thing. So without judgment, one thing I learn is don't judge and don't negate and don't put down things just because you do it. I listen to it and I accept whatever they tell, and I know, okay, end of the day, whatever I'm going to give is actually going to a corner of a room in a small 500 rupee Bluetooth speaker and it may boom. So my job is to fix that also. So like that, with every critical feedback, with every critical comment, with every comment that makes you feel horrible as a mixing engineer, you learn and learn and learn and learn. And you start to accept criticism. And that polishes your output and you come to a point where, yes, whatever we do is starting to translate well. So I'm still in that journey.
Wow. Amazing. I love it. And so, of course, look, again, I mean, this is just me being curious. As a mixing engineer, do you have a set number of iterations going back and forth? Or because it could be never ending, right? With people coming back with feedback and then you going back into your drawing room again to mix, and then how does that work?
So when you actually mix, if your producer, engineer, director, they trust you
Right.
and they have a sense of sound, then the iteration process is not very long. You may have one or two inputs that they may have, sometimes no inputs, sometimes a few musical elements that they feel after the mix, sir, you mute this, you don't mute that. Sir, I feel like I should give a little more elements, so they will send me one more stem of some other thing and say, okay, just wanted to make it heavier on the rhythm or better paths on it. So there will be creative evolution of a mix also. Sometimes the mix is blindly accepted, but there are times where you also have to handle people who don't understand what the mix is. People listen to the rough mix that you give them for the shoot, or you give them the rough track which has nothing in it. They listen to it a billion times and they are so used to it that when you actually give good music, they feel something has gone wrong with the final mix and the added music to it. So it's man management, as I would call it. You have to be very calm and understanding and trying to help them feel good and not mess up. So a mixing engineer's job is not merely getting the right sound, but also to manage people and their um, how they should accept your mix and how we should accept their critical comments. So it's a very handshaking process. Yeah.
I love it. Love it. And lastly, where is the industry heading? What is going to be the norm for the way forward with Dolby Atmos mix and then spatial audio and things like that coming up? Is that going to be the norm going forward, or
there is a lot that is happening? See, what's happening now is in the recent times after internet has come into place. See, there were days where we had cassettes and CDs. Everybody had a boom box and people could actually listen to music in a very decent environment. Nowadays, a cell phone with those 2 millimeter holes in it actually bring out a great mix that we spend for, like, you spend 20-30 hours on the song and then people listen to it through needle holes and stuff. But the point here is the consumer side is rushing with restlessness. People don't have time to listen. Songs that are 6 minutes have now become 3 minutes. Soundtracks have become 2.5 minutes. People don't want anything more than 3 minutes. 4 minutes is too big a song for people now. There are times where we have had songs that are 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes. People don't listen to. Same way with sound. They know that people are not going to see. Home theaters are gone. Tell me the last time you would have actually purchased a CD. You might not even remember. Tell me the last time you would have even purchased music. Only now subscription is there, Spotify and this thing, you subscribe. But purchasing music or an album is kind of a history. So in that context, if that happens to just music, when it doesn't happen to music, you also realize that the consumer electronics is also hit. Nobody wants to invest on a 5.1. Nobody wants to invest on a 7.1. Nobody is having the space or the room to bring in so many speakers and wire and invest on it to actually listen to great experience. To me, this is a big opportunity for companies to actually open up, saying that we have spatial audio on headphones, you have on earbuds, you can hear everything through 360, at least 180 degree to 360 kind of an experience, Atmos and everything. So Dolby is doing incredible work in trying to get everything in your ears and in something that you can carry in your laptop bag. To a point where laptops now say they can have Atmos. It's, as a mixing engineer, I have two opinions on this, very honestly. If I have to be very truthful to you, I've been so truthful to you till now, and I would like to complete it truthful. One side is I'm very awed and amazed with the kind of technology development that has. But with this has come a big drawback of great music that doesn't come out. People have started investing so much on technology. Programmers, music directors don't even invest time on doing good music. Everything has gone into, you do something and then does it go into spatial audio? Is our music spatial audio? what do you hear? You tell me, have you heard spatial audio, and has it like flowed you down to some point that Roja did not, you know?
True. Yeah.
So to me, whatever it is, with going forward with technology, as a mixing engineer myself, as a person who loves technology and evolves with technology and mixes in Atmos myself, I have only one thing. As much as that evolves, I'm great. But I'm seeing music dying, music creation dying, people investing so much into technology, but the quality of music is falling. So that way, I want the quality of music to also go up. When there was just tape and stereo and even mono, amazing melodies and music were coming out. Now with all these fancy, experience of listening, and okay, we had 5.1, we had 7.1, then IMAX, now Atmos. In 2 years, our consumer electronics, people have to make money. Atmos will die soon, and then another new nuclear will come, or from atoms to nuclears to molecules. New names would come. You may start hearing things from nowhere. All these are great. It's incredible, and people have the money to buy the technology. That's great. But I think music holds the first place.
Beautiful. I love it. I absolutely love this. So, Sai, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. It's been such a phenomenal experience talking to you, to be honest. And it's an hour and a half. I'm just looking at the clock here. And I don't know if you realized it, but I could keep this podcast going for hours. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to get beaten by your family later.
Not my family. I have another artist on the other side. I told them 1 hour, and I've come here to do this podcast. So they are waiting.
So sorry.
No problem. No problem.
And so
anything for sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And then, so before I let you go, lastly, a message for sir via this podcast.
Sir, I just have one thing to tell you. You've been such a great inspiration to the whole world. Be this, give us all your love, give us all your energy through music, and keep blessing us. What else can I say? You've given so much. I have nothing to ask. Just be what you are, sir.
Beautiful. Sai, I absolutely love talking to you. And I'm going to bring you back again. I need a part 2 of this podcast. Why did I delay in bringing you here on this journey?
That was because of me. I was not well with COVID.
No. It was even to the point where I invited you. It was like there was a delay because I have an extensive list of people. I did extensive research when I came into this journey, and I have a very, very complex spreadsheet full of people that I need to talk to. And so yes, and your guest number 108. So
wow, nice.
So yes, it's been a phenomenal journey for me, and I'm loving it, and I love hearing these stories, and I'm going to cherish this. So 2 years down the line, when I watch this again, it's going to bring a huge smile on my face, and I hope it does to you as well when you watch it in the future.
This is the first time I'm speaking about sir. Somebody has even asked me to give an opportunity to be a part of his journey.
Thank you so much. So Sai, thank you so much once again, and looking forward to catching up with you. And then as a thank you, I would like to send you a t-shirt that I hope it brings a smile. I'll exclusively design it for you, and I'll send it over. I'll grab your address later, and then I'll send it over.
Sure.
And it'll be a little memory for you that this guy spoke about AR Rahman sir, and then yes, so